The planet Zeria had always been a mystery, a dark, distant world few humans dared to explore. But when a distress signal came from a ship that had gone silent for weeks, the Eagle Star was dispatched to investigate. The crew, led by Captain Lyra, was no stranger to strange planets, but this one felt different. There was an unsettling aura about it, as if something was waiting for them. As the ship approached, Lyra ordered the sensors to scan the planet. The readings came back strange, an ancient structure hidden within jagged rocks. The air was thick with fog, and there was a silence that felt almost unnatural. The crew couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, but Lyra, a seasoned leader, pushed the fear aside. "We're landing," she commanded. "Stay sharp, everyone." The Eagle Star touched down on a clearing surrounded by towering cliffs. The air outside was cold and dense, a strange, almost oppressive atmosphere. As the crew disembarked, the fog swirled around them, and their footsteps seemed to echo unnervingly loud. It didn't take long before they saw her, standing alone in the distance. The figure was tall, slender, and radiating an eerie blue light. Her skin shimmered, and her eyes, large and glowing, locked onto them with an intensity that sent a shiver down Lyra's spine. The crew froze. This wasn't just a survivor or another alien species. They were looking at something entirely otherworldly. Lyra, ever the calm leader, stepped forward. "Who are you?" she called out, her voice steady despite the rising tension. The alien woman didn't move at first. Then, with an almost graceful ease, she spoke. "I am Iris of the Katara. I've been waiting for you." Her voice was soft but clear, almost melodic. The words hung in the air, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Waiting for them? What did she mean? And how did she know they were coming? Lyra took another step closer. "What do you want from us?" Iris smiled, a smile that was at once inviting and mysterious. "I need shelter. In return, I will offer you something no human woman can." The crew exchanged glances, unsure of how to respond. There was something about the alien that felt dangerous, but also oddly alluring. Lyra's instincts told her to be cautious, but they had come all this way for answers, and Iris seemed to know more than she was letting on. Lyra straightened, her voice firm. "What is it you can offer us?" Iris's glowing eyes seemed to flicker for a moment, as though she was reading their thoughts. "I can offer you knowledge, power, and immortality." The words were like a shock to the crew, especially to Lyra. Immortality? It was a promise no one could ignore, yet it felt too incredible to be true. She had heard of ancient aliens offering such gifts, but the price was always steep, often too steep to pay. "Why would you offer such a thing?" Lyra asked, her tone wary. Iris's smile grew slightly. "Because I owe a debt to your people. The Katara were once great, but we fell. Your ancestors helped us, and now I repay that debt. You give me shelter, and in return, I offer you eternity." Lyra felt her heart race. This was unlike any encounter she had ever experienced. The promise of immortality was tempting, but something about Iris made her uneasy. What was the cost of such a gift, and why had Iris chosen them? "I can't promise anything just yet," Lyra said, taking a step back. "We need time to think." Iris nodded, her glowing eyes never leaving Lyra's face. "Of course. But know this, Captain, time is not on your side. The universe is changing, and those who are not ready will fall. This opportunity may not come again." The crew led Iris aboard the Eagle Star. As the ship took off, Lyra watched the alien closely, her mind racing with questions. What did Iris want from them? Was this offer a gift or a trap? The crew was safe for now, but they had no idea what they had just brought aboard. Iris's presence filled the ship with an unsettling energy. She was a mystery, one that the crew would soon have to solve, and with her promise of immortality hanging in the air, there was no telling where this journey would lead them. The Eagle Star was now in orbit around Zeria, and the crew found themselves in an uncomfortable silence. Iris, the mysterious alien from the Katara race, had been brought aboard the ship under the assumption that she would provide answers to their questions. But with every passing hour, the atmosphere grew heavier. There was an unsettling sense of unease that clung to the crew, especially as Iris made herself at home in the observation deck, her glowing eyes always watching them. Captain Lyra had always trusted her instincts, and something about Iris didn't sit right with her. While the alien woman appeared to be offering gifts beyond their wildest imaginations, immortality, power, and knowledge, Lyra couldn't help but feel there was more to her words than met the eye. She had heard of such promises before, but they were always too good to be true. Iris was calm, almost too calm. She had an otherworldly grace, and her glowing skin pulsed with a soft light that never seemed to flicker or fade. Her gaze was intense, and though she spoke little, every word she did say seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 unspoken secrets. But despite her outward serenity, Lyra could sense an undercurrent of something darker. She wasn't sure if Iris was a friend or a foe, but Lyra knew one thing: she had to keep her guard up. The crew was divided. Some were excited by the possibility of immortality, eager to embrace the aliens' offer without fully understanding what they were getting into. Others were more cautious, sensing that something was off about Iris's presence. The promise of power and eternal life was tempting, but it was a double-edged sword. What would they lose in exchange? As the days passed, Iris's promises started to manifest in strange ways. The crew members began to experience unusual abilities. One engineer, Soren, found that he could communicate with alien technology in a way that had never been possible before. Another crew member, Sarah, could understand languages she had never studied, reading ancient texts as if they were written in her native tongue. But the most startling development was when the ship's weapon systems seemed to react to their thoughts. The crew could now control them with only a glance or a gesture, as if the ship itself had become an extension of their minds. At first, it seemed like a miracle. The crew marveled at their newfound power, testing their abilities with growing excitement. But as the days wore on, their joy began to fade into uncertainty. No one fully understood how these powers worked, and no one knew what the price would be. Lyra found herself haunted by Iris's words: "The cost is personal, and it is something only you can know when you choose to take the gift." Captain Lyra, still grappling with the weight of their situation, called the crew together in the ship's command center. She knew they had to discuss the offer Iris had made, but she also knew the crew was getting restless. Some were eager to accept the alien's gift, seeing it as a path to unimaginable greatness. Others, however, were growing more fearful. They could feel something changing inside them, an uneasy shift in their minds and bodies that they couldn't explain. "We can't keep going like this," Lyra said, her voice firm. "Iris promised us power, knowledge, and immortality, but we don't fully understand what we're dealing with. Some of you are already experiencing abilities that are beyond anything we've ever known, but we don't know the cost, and there's one thing we can't ignore: there's always a price." The room fell silent as the crew exchanged nervous glances. Soren spoke up, his voice shaking. "But Captain, think about it. Immortality, the ability to understand any language, control nature, and all the knowledge of the galaxy at our fingertips. We could change everything. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Lyra shook her head, her expression hardening. "And what if the price is too high? What if we lose ourselves in the process?" Iris's voice interrupted their conversation. She had appeared silently in the doorway, her glowing eyes focused on Lyra. "You are right to be cautious, Captain. There is always a price for such gifts, but it is not one you must fear. The Katara are an ancient race, and our knowledge is boundless. The power I offer you will ensure your survival in a universe that is changing rapidly. The galaxy is at war, and those who are not prepared will be left behind." Lyra felt the shiver run down her spine. The mention of war sent a chill through her. She had heard rumors of conflicts brewing between various alien races, but nothing had been confirmed. Was Iris warning them of something specific, or was she merely trying to convince them to accept her offer? "What exactly do you want from us in return?" Lyra asked, her voice steady but with a hint of suspicion. Iris smiled, but it wasn't a reassuring smile. "I want nothing more than shelter. I've been alone for many years, hiding from enemies that would destroy me. Your ship offers me the protection I need. In return, I offer you a future beyond anything you could imagine." Lyra felt a pang of doubt, but she kept it hidden. There was something about Iris's presence that felt both comforting and unnerving. Was this alien really offering them immortality out of kindness, or was there something darker lurking behind her words? "I'm still not sure we can trust you." Lyra said, crossing her arms. "But I will give you shelter, for now. But we need time to think about your offer. We cannot make this decision lightly." Iris nodded slowly, her glowing eyes never leaving Lyra's face. "Of course, Captain. Time is a luxury you may not have for long." As Iris turned and left the room, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something monumental. The crew had been offered power beyond imagination, but the cost was still unknown. Would they accept Iris's gifts, or would they walk away from the promise of immortality? Lyra wasn't sure, but she knew one thing for certain: the Eagle Star would never be the same again. The tension aboard the Eagle Star begins to reach its peak. Captain Lyra and her crew are still grappling with the strange gifts they have started to receive since bringing Iris aboard. While some crew members are in awe of their newfound abilities, others grow more suspicious, sensing that there's a hidden price to Iris's promises. The powers granted to them are undeniable: enhanced mental abilities, increased physical strength, and the ability to manipulate technology with a mere thought. But the unsettling feeling that comes with these powers cannot be ignored. Captain Lyra, ever cautious, has begun to observe the crew more closely. She notices that some of them are growing more distant, almost as if they are losing touch with their humanity. The gifts Iris promised are not just enhancing their physical or intellectual abilities, they are also changing the way they think, making them more detached, more cold. Lyra fears that the crew may be losing themselves, becoming something other than human in their pursuit of power. Iris, on the other hand, remains an enigma. She is calm and composed, always with that same otherworldly grace. She seems to understand the crew in ways that go beyond simple observation, as if she is constantly reading their thoughts. Despite this, she does not seem to push them toward any specific course of action. Instead, she offers cryptic guidance, telling them that the universe is changing, and they must adapt to survive. Lyra, however, remains skeptical of Iris's true intentions. She senses that Iris is not just offering power for the sake of kindness, but has an agenda of her own. The captain wonders if Iris is using the crew to fulfill her own goals, whether that involves manipulation or something darker. The more time they spend with Iris, the more Lyra becomes convinced that the aliens' promises come with a hidden cost, one that could have dire consequences. Tensions aboard the ship rise as the crew members who have embraced their new abilities begin to change. Soren, the ship's engineer, is one of the first to be fully swept up in the powers Iris has granted them. His understanding of alien technology becomes near legendary, and he begins to push the boundaries of what the ship's systems can do. But as he becomes more absorbed in his newfound talents, he grows increasingly isolated, speaking less with the crew and more with the machines. Sarah, another crew member, begins to experience strange dreams, visions of other worlds, distant stars, and galaxies she has never visited. Her ability to read alien languages expands far beyond what Iris has shown her. She starts to question the crew's motives and her place in the universe. Her transformation becomes more visible, as she becomes more distant and introspective, often spending hours staring out at the stars, seemingly lost in another realm. The ship, too, seems to change. It's as if the Eagle Star is becoming a living entity, responding to the crew's newfound abilities and mental connections. The crew can now control systems with only their thoughts, communication systems, weapons, engines, but the feeling that the ship itself is becoming too alive is both thrilling and terrifying. The boundaries between human and machine are blurring, and Lyra wonders if the crew is sacrificing their humanity in exchange for these extraordinary powers. The turning point comes when the crew makes their first decision to test the full extent of their new abilities. They decide to engage in a risky maneuver, one that could potentially take them closer to Iris's past, into the heart of the conflict she mentioned earlier. Iris has told them of an impending war in the galaxy, one that threatens all life, and she hints that the crew's new powers could make them key players in the conflict. But when the crew activates the ship's weapon systems in a controlled test, they discover something disturbing. The ship responds to their emotions. The more intense their feelings, the stronger the ship's weapons become. In the middle of the test, an unexpected reaction occurs. The weapons begin to charge on their own, triggered by an unconscious surge of power in one of the crew members, causing an explosion that nearly destroys part of the ship. Panic ensues, and the crew begins to realize that they have no control over the powers they've been granted. Their connection to the ship and to each other is becoming dangerously unpredictable. In the aftermath of the explosion, Lyra gathers the crew once more. There's fear in their eyes now. They can no longer deny that Iris's gifts are changing them in ways they hadn't anticipated. The powers they've gained are not without consequences, and their relationships with each other and with the ship are starting to deteriorate. Some crew members are more determined than ever to embrace the new abilities, believing that they are destined for greatness. Others, however, are beginning to question whether the price they've paid is too high. Lyra, still holding onto her skepticism, is now more resolved than ever to uncover the truth. Iris's promises of immortality and power are starting to feel like a trap. The captain is torn between the crew's desire for power and the instinct to protect them from the dangerous path they are on. She knows that if they continue down this road, they risk losing everything: each other, their humanity, and perhaps even their lives. The story intensifies as the crew realizes they are teetering on the edge of something they can't control. Iris's calm demeanor hides something more sinister, and her true intentions remain a mystery. What is she really after? And what happens when the crew finally faces the true cost of immortality? The stakes grow higher as the crew must decide whether to continue down this dangerous path or break free from Iris's influence before it's too late. The tension reaches a breaking point. Captain Lyra and the crew of the Eagle Star are caught in the aftermath of their dangerous experiment with the new powers they have gained from Iris. After the weapons test went out of control, damaging part of the ship, fear and distrust begin to spread among the crew. The ability to control the ship and its weapons with only their thoughts has turned into a double-edged sword. While their newfound powers initially seemed like a gift, the crew now realizes they cannot fully control them, and the consequences of their actions could be catastrophic. The crew members who embrace their abilities begin to act more erratically. Soren, the engineer, becomes obsessed with further exploring the ship's systems and the alien technology embedded in it. His connection to the ship deepens, but so does his detachment from the rest of the crew. He becomes more withdrawn, speaking less and isolating himself with the ship's machinery. He believes that the power they have gained is the key to victory in the coming Galactic War Iris had spoken of, but his obsession with power starts to cloud his judgment. Sarah, the linguist who had begun to understand ancient alien languages, experiences increasingly disturbing visions. These visions show her apocalyptic futures, wars, and the ultimate downfall of civilizations. She begins to question whether the immortality and power Iris offered were worth the price they were paying. Sarah's ability to understand these visions grows stronger, but it also drives her to the edge of madness. She becomes unable to distinguish between the future she is seeing and the present, leaving her disconnected from reality. Captain Lyra, still focused on the crew's well-being, realizes that they can no longer ignore the growing chaos. The crew's physical abilities have enhanced, but their emotional and mental stability is slipping. Lyra fears that if they do not find a way to regain control, they will lose everything they have fought for, including their humanity. Iris, sensing the shift in the crew's morale, appears to offer comfort. She tells them that they are on the brink of becoming something greater than human. This is the path to transcendence, she tells Lyra, but you must be willing to embrace it fully. Only those who accept the change will survive the coming conflict. Lyra becomes more determined to uncover Iris's true motivations. She begins to see that Iris might not be as benevolent as she initially appeared. Her promises of power and immortality are starting to feel like manipulation. Lyra wonders whether Iris is using the crew to further her own agenda, or if she is simply using them as pawns in a much larger, more dangerous game. The captain knows that Iris has hidden knowledge about the war and the galaxy's shifting balance of power, but she's not sure if she can trust the alien anymore. The turning point comes when the crew is forced to make a difficult decision. While Lyra has been attempting to regain control of the crew and stop them from spiraling further into chaos, the ship is suddenly attacked by a mysterious force, another alien faction that has been tracking Iris. They've come for her, and they're willing to destroy the Eagle Star to capture her. The crew must now decide whether to stand with Iris, who claims to have the power to protect them, or to reject her and face the unknown attackers alone. Iris, calm and confident as ever, tells Lyra that this is the moment when they must fully embrace their new abilities. The war has come, she says, her eyes glowing with an intensity that sends a chill through the captain. You are now part of something much bigger. You cannot turn back. The crew is divided. Some want to fight with Iris, believing that her power will protect them and lead them to victory. Others, including Lyra, feel that they cannot trust her fully and are unsure if they should sacrifice themselves to her cause. The tension in the air is palpable as the crew prepares for battle. The mysterious alien attackers are closing in, and the evil star is running out of time. The crew must use their new abilities to defend the ship, but the risk of losing themselves to Iris's influence is ever present. The stakes have never been higher. In the heat of the battle, Iris reveals more about her true purpose. She admits that she has been hiding from these enemies for centuries, and that she has been seeking refuge in the form of the evil star and its crew. She was never just offering shelter in the traditional sense. She was searching for a powerful ally to help her in her fight. And now, with the crew's enhanced abilities, they have become that ally. As the battle rages on, Captain Lyra faces a crucial decision. She must choose whether to place her trust in Iris and the power she has granted the crew, or to reject the alien's influence and take the ship and its crew into uncharted territory. The promise of immortality and power is tempting, but Lyra knows that with it comes the risk of losing everything she values. The decision she makes in this moment will determine the future of the crew and the evil star. The story intensifies as Lyra and her crew must confront the true cost of the gifts they've received. Will they embrace Iris's offer, or will they fight against the alien influence to regain their freedom? The fate of the evil star and its crew rests on the choices they make in the face of danger. The climax of the story unfolds, and the tension between Captain Lyra, the crew of the evil star, and Iris reaches a critical point. The battle with the mysterious alien attackers, who have been hunting Iris for centuries, is in full swing. The crew is pushed to their limits, their newfound powers being tested in real combat for the first time. It becomes clear that the gifts Iris has granted them are not just a blessing, they are a curse. The crew is no longer just humans, they have become something else, something that is no longer entirely in control. The battle starts off with the crew using their abilities with increasing confidence. Soren, with his newfound understanding of alien technology, manages to reprogram the ship's weapon systems, giving them an edge over the attackers. Sarah, who can now see into possible futures, predicts the movements of the enemy ships, allowing the crew to anticipate their attacks. The evil star's weapons, now responsive to their thoughts and emotions, fire with deadly precision, causing the attackers to retreat. For a brief moment, the crew believes they have won, but that victory feels hollow. Iris, who has been observing the battle from the observation deck, steps forward and reveals a shocking truth. The alien attackers were never just after her, they were also searching for the crew. The power they have gained, the abilities that seemed like a blessing, have marked them as targets in the eyes of many factions in the galaxy. The crew is no longer just a group of explorers, they are now players in a much larger, more dangerous game. Iris explains that the war she spoke of is not just some distant threat, it is already upon them, and the crew's involvement is not by chance. They are now the key to the survival of many, but also a powerful weapon that could either destroy or save entire civilizations. Lyra's worst fears are realized as Iris admits that her offer was never entirely about shelter or protection. She wanted to create a new army, a new force in the galaxy, one that was powerful enough to challenge the balance of power. The crew, through their enhanced abilities, are now the perfect soldiers, ready to lead Iris's crusade. Lyra feels betrayed, and the rest of the crew is shocked by the revelation. They are left to grapple with the knowledge that they have been used, manipulated into becoming pawns in Iris's grand plan. The captain confronts Iris, demanding to know why she didn't warn them about the true cost of the power she offered. Iris, calm as always, explains that she knew they would never accept her offer if they knew the full truth. The crew needed to be shaped, molded into something greater than what they were before. The powers they had received were just the beginning of their transformation, and Iris believed that they were destined to change the course of the galaxy. However, her calm demeanor hides a hint of desperation. Iris is not entirely in control either. She has been running from her own enemies for centuries and has nowhere to go. Now that the crew has embraced their powers, they are both her shield and her sword, and she needs them to fight alongside her. As the crew processes this betrayal, the external threat looms larger. The alien attackers are regrouping, and they will return in greater numbers. The evil star is now a target, and there is no turning back. Lyra, torn between the crew's newfound abilities and the looming reality of Iris's manipulation, makes a decisive choice. She will no longer allow Iris to dictate their path. The crew must decide whether to follow Iris into the war she has promised, or to break free and face the galaxy on their own terms. In a tense meeting, Lyra addresses the crew. Some, like Soren and Sarah, are still drawn to Iris's promise of power and immortality. But others, more uncertain, begin to question whether the cost of such gifts is worth the potential destruction. The crew is fractured, unsure of what to do next. But one thing becomes clear: they must make a choice, and that choice will shape the future of the evil star and its crew. In the final moments, Lyra makes the ultimate decision. The crew will no longer serve Iris's cause. Instead, they will chart their own path. They will fight, but on their terms, for their own survival and for the freedom to decide their own fate. They will no longer be pawns in a galactic war, but will take control of their destinies. The evil star sets a new course, leaving Iris behind. The crew now fully understands the gravity of the choices they have made. Their abilities may remain, but the price of power is one they must now bear alone. Iris, watching from afar, understands that her time with the crew has come to an end. She may be a powerful ally or a dangerous foe in the future, but for now, she is no longer part of their journey. As the Eagle Star sails into the unknown, the crew begins to understand that the galaxy is vast and filled with both danger and opportunity. They may have gained unimaginable power, but they now face the ultimate challenge: to navigate the galaxy on their own terms, without being controlled by forces beyond their understanding. The story ends on a note of uncertainty but also of hope. The crew is no longer under Iris's influence, and they are determined to forge their own path. The universe is a vast and unpredictable place, but with their newfound abilities and their unity, they are ready to face whatever comes next. The evil star may be a symbol of their power, but it is also a symbol of their freedom, a freedom they are willing to fight for, no matter the cost.